Both sides played their part in a very entertaining game in Scotstoun. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Munster were the team on the front foot early on. They win a penalty for not rolling away, kick that up the line into 22, go to the maul, and it's brought down illegally. So from that penalty, then they go to the corner. The maul makes ground initially, but Glasgow, with a great counter drive, forces them to spread it, to go wide, but decent defence from Glasgow. They force a knock on in the tackle, and then they're able to clear from the scrum. Some really good defence there from Glasgow. Glasgow then pinch Munster's line out on the edge of their own 22, but they create a problem for themselves as basically the ball is just launched backwards towards their own line. Within a couple of meters of there, they have to scramble to get that clear. And, some good defence, some not so good defence from them in the opening minutes. Munster then come again, but give away a penalty for a lift beyond the horizontal in a clear out, and Ahern goes to the bin for his part in it. Just stupid play there because Munster, they were on the front foot, they were in the 22, there was no need for it at all. Glasgow then get their first chance from a line out on the edge of the Munster 22. Who was it? Agunta Beju claims it well. They set up the maul. Lovely roll on the maul, just so efficient with that and just so well drilled as well. The rumble to about 5 minutes out, Barn pinged for in at the side, and from that penalty then Glasgow go to the corner, but then Matthews overthrows and it's a let off for Munster. They're able to clear after the scrum. Glasgow then looking dangerous as they look to exploit space outside with the extra man. Stain breaking a tackle, but Andrew Smith hits George Horn, then gets back up, turns the ball over. Butler with a chip through. Munster then, they get to the bouncing ball. They're attacking. They go close on the right hand side. Then they spread it left. Butler with a cross kick. And then it's fed back inside for Hodnett to go over. And then Butler converts that for 7 points to nil. Munster in the deserved lead at that point. Munster then back up to 15 as the yellow card period ends. Glasgow look to attack off a line out, but Munster, are disrupting your attack well. They're getting in their passing channels and just making it very hard for them to, find any space. Gavin Coombs then charges into 22 wide on the left. Munster working it within 5 meters to go through the phases, getting closer and closer. Then they go wide to Sean O'Brien, who puts on a little bit of footwork and then stretches out to score in the corner. Converses missed, 12 points to nil. Glasgow then strike after turning the ball over. Violanu with some good carries. Ollie Smith then offloads to George Horn. He finds Stafford McDowell, who offloads back to him, and he finishes under the post. Just brilliantly worked try there. Just Horn just being that link all the way through, and just the ability as well. Very sympathetic with the offloads. And Horn equals the try scoring record for Glasgow, set by DTH van der Merwe, who was sitting in the stands, probably raring to get back out on the pitch and take his record back, but that's converted for 12 points to 7. Munster then come again, force a penalty on the edge of 22. Butler strokes that over for 15 points to 7. Glasgow then strike again. This time it's off a set move from a scrum inside their own half. They work it out to the right, and Stain, the scrum was on the left, work it all the way up to the right. Stain goes through a gap. He's got support, but then he backs his pace and is able to loop around to get closer to the post and make that conversion kick much easier. It is converted for 15 points to 14. We then have a team mode check for possible high hit from Nankiville during the build up to that, but it's shoulder on shoulder, so no foul play. Munster then attacking again on the edge of 22, by Violano gets over the ball to win a penalty for Glasgow, and they clear it. 15-14 is a halftime score. Glasgow defence and also their ability to finish their chances, keeping them in this one. Second half then, Glasgow attacking early on the edge of 22, but Ahern gets over the ball, turns it over, and Munster win a scrum and they can clear. Patterson then with a nice kick into space behind the Glasgow cover, and Hastings looking to gather it because it's, you know, a potential 50-22. He actually knocks it into touch about 10 metres out from his own line. Warriors then repel the initial drive from the maul. Munster retain it. They go through the phases, but Cancellieri gets over the ball to win a penalty, and some crucial interventions in the Glasgow 22 on defence, and that one there certainly up there. Johnny Matthews then with some lovely footwork in midfield, but Munster managed to force a penalty shortly after that. Both teams, you know, looking to spread it at every opportunity, and it's very entertaining the way, you know, backs and forwards all looking to kind of move the ball. Munster then attacking again in 22, Glasgow not rolling, and they have a penalty under the post. Butler pops that over for 18-14, and it just shows how close the game is, because Munster, they've rarely taken the 3 points this season. They've done it twice now in this game. Staying then with a nice low tackle on Ben O'Connor, who was trying to run the ball back out of, you know, his own half. Johnny Matthews gets over the ball to win a penalty, but Hastings' kick to the corner gets held up in the wind for the second time, and then Munster are able to clear. Staying then, we talked about that. We then have a scramble in and around the Munster line after a kick through. Munster managed to gather, and back we come for a Glasgow penalty from a scrum. They missed touch for the third time in a row, and Munster booted clear. Munster then strike off a dominant scrum, an area that Glasgow actually had to nudge on for most of the game. They run it, they get it out to the right. Farrell actually looked like he'd taken the space from his winger, Sean O'Brien, coming into that space, but then a nice fend, draws a couple of defenders, pops the ball off inside, Sean O'Brien coming back inside on a scissors, and he rides a tackle from George Horn and then has the pace to get over and score, converted for 25 points to 14. Glasgow win a penalty at the restart, and there's just an ironic cheer from the home fans as they finally find touch around about the edge of the 22. Lineout goes over the top, but they manage to retain it. They then win a penalty. Cancellieri taps that. They surge forward. It's recycled, and Matt Fagerson goes over to score. That's converted for 25 points to 21. And Munster, with a couple of chances there to prevent that, but they just couldn't do it. Munster then make a mess of a line out in the Glasgow half. Who is it? Ben Afshar kicks it in behind. The ball is bouncing. Cancellieri is winning the race to it, but it bounces way over his head. And if he had got it, he was definitely in for a try. It's not a 50-22 because the ball was carried back into the Glasgow half. Munster, can clear from the line out, but it's just outside of the 22. They then steal Glasgow's line out on the edge of that 22, but Glasgow hold the man up in the tackle to force a scrum on the edge again of that 22, and real seesaw period of the game there. It just felt like whoever was going to come out on top on that little bit, could get the momentum to win the game. It was Glasgow who got kind of the final flip over. Munster then, they get a big shove in the scrum, but it wheels. The ball comes out of the side, and Glasgow, they're wheeled almost completely around. So they're now in behind the Munster pack, and they go through the phases. They manage to force penalty advantage. Munster holding them out, but the penalty advantages are stacking up. And then eventually they drive over under the post, and it's Nathan Macbeth this time. I think the likes of Fagerson again heavily involved in there, and some big carries from the forwards. Conversion makes it 28 points to 25 with about 4 minutes left on the clock, and that was their bonus point try as well. Munster then, they come forward looking to retake the lead. Ruan Quinn off the bench. He's carrying well. But Glasgow then win a penalty. And now you just feel like, they've just got to see out the clock. There's about a minute left on that clock. They go to the maul, but Munster turn the ball over with seconds left. They have a scrum in their own half. You're thinking they're going to go for a big shove, but straight away, both front rows go down. So Munster have to run it. They hold onto the ball for almost 2.5 minutes with the clock in the red. But then I think it was Jack Mann gets over the ball to win a penalty. And then that's it, 28 points to 25 full time. So we're going to have a look at the stats and then we'll just quickly talk about each of the teams. So let me pull those stats up here on the URC website and then fingers crossed that they're actually up to date. Okay, so first of all, attack. Glasgow 4 tries to Munster's 3. Possession then 46% to 54. So, Munster with most of the ball, as you would expect from, the amount of attacks Munster had compared to Glasgow. Clean breaks, so 13 for the Warriors and 6 for Munster. So again, Glasgow being more efficient and their attack looking slicker as well. Defenders beaten 28 for Glasgow and 34 for Munster. So Munster actually beating more defenders, but Glasgow almost like 2-1 for their defenders beaten converted into clean breaks. Munster almost 6-1 for them. So nowhere near as efficient as Glasgow in terms, once they beat that first defender. Offloads then 11 for Glasgow, 12 for Munster. Both teams looking to keep the ball alive, and prevent kind of that slow ball at the ruck. Defence then, territory 42% for Glasgow, 58 for Munster. So again, Munster, most of the ball in the Warriors half as well, but they couldn't, they couldn't first of all create as many clear-cut chances as Glasgow did, but also the chances they were making, they couldn't finish them either. Number of tackles then, 160 for Glasgow, 129 for Munster. Missed tackles, 30 for Glasgow, 29 for Munster. Tackle success, 76% for Glasgow, 73 for Munster. So nowhere near kind of a pass mark for either defence. But a lot of the missed tackles were happening in around the middle of the pitch. When it came to kind of last ditch defence, certainly, I think both teams are pretty good, but Glasgow had the edge on that one. Turnovers 1 then, 8 for Glasgow, 9 for Munster. So both teams, when they did, when they did kind of compete at the breakdown, having some success as well. Onto kicking then, kicks retained, 1 for Glasgow, 3 for Munster. It wasn't a game where, kicking had a huge effect, especially with that wind. It was kind of very hard to, whether if you're obviously playing against the wind, you didn't want to kick that much. And if you're playing with the wind, you didn't want to put up high kicks either because it would take the ball closer to the opposition anyway. So the kicks we saw really, in terms of the retained kicks, were kind of chips over the top a lot, and then people getting there on the bounce and stuff. Penalties then, 8 penalties conceded for Glasgow, 14 for Munster. So Munster certainly not going to be happy with their discipline, and a lot of those as well were kind of close to their own 22 and close to their own line as well. Then let's have a look at individual players. So, George Horn with that one try again, equaling the record for the moment at least, for all-time Glasgow try scorers even. And then Sean O'Brien with 2 tries for Munster, but ending up on the losing side. Successful carries then, 6 for Horn, and then Alex Kendlin with 9 for Munster. He did some good stuff for Munster, but also, he felt like himself and Coombs having a good game in the back row, but not quite getting those bursts that they needed, in the 22 especially. Clean breaks then, George Horn with 5, very lively game from him. Sean O'Brien with 2, for Munster. Defenders beating then Kyle Steyn with 9 for Warriors. I thought he was excellent out on the wing and linking well with Kyle Rowe coming up from fullback as well. And 8 for Sean O'Brien for Munster. Meters made then Kyle Rowe with 93 from fullback, doing a really good job for Glasgow. And Ben O'Connor, kind of a mixed game for him. Some good stuff, some maybe, some decisions not so good in terms of, getting caught in certain positions, but 51 meters for him. Then offloads, 4 from Staffan McDowell and 4 from Tom Farrell, and both of them, offloading to a player who scored a try. Onto defence then, number of tackles, Jack Mann with 18 and, getting that penalty right at the end as well to seal the victory. 16 for Gavin Coombs, so, both sides of the ball, a good shift from him. Turnovers 1 then, Vailana with 4 for Glasgow, so basically one of half of his team's turnovers. And that guy, was absolutely brilliant. Tom Farrell then with 1 for Munster. So let's quickly talk about each of the teams. Starting with the home team, Glasgow. They stuck in the game in the first half, and that was really important from them as well. And they struck at just the right time as well, just before the end, and it made it very difficult for Munster to kind of build any momentum towards getting a final score. They took the chance as well, and defence made sure that Munster didn't get out of sight when they were on top in certain periods as well, and you look at it, those stats, Vailano having a big part in that. Johnny Matthews as well, I thought, was excellent from them, but a lot of good performances on the Glasgow side, some decent ones for Munster as well, but, for Munster, going to be disappointed with this loss, especially on the back of that loss to Edinburgh at home, last time out as well. The performance today certainly was much improved to that one against Edinburgh, but you still feel the attack not quite there from them. There are some good signs, but when they get into the red zone, it's the accuracy isn't quite there. The ability to kind of spot when they're going to get isolated isn't there either. And then when they're trying to kind of move the ball quickly, kind of offload out of contact or wherever, sometimes it means that they're kind of getting pushed back and then on the back foot as well, which obviously you don't want to be doing on attack. Definitely won't be happy that they gave up that score so late, and having led the game from that first try, the only time they fell behind was 4 minutes to go. 4 minutes to go when Glasgow got over for the bonus point and winning try. Looney's bonus point for them, not really going to be much consolation, because they're trying to chase that home quarterfinal spot, and for them, they've got to go on a run now and get some wins, or they're going to be, the pack behind them are so close that they're not even guaranteed getting into the top 8 at this stage. So they've got to find not just some form, but you've got to get wins as well. There's no point just playing well at this point of the season. You've got to find a way to win, whether you're playing well or not. So that's a big task for them. But overall, I thought it was a really good, game of rugby. Glasgow doing just enough to win it in the end, but they are the defending champions, and that's something really that they've added to their game between over last season and carried on in this season as well, is to get those wins in tight games when they're not necessarily firing on all cylinders. So they're going to be happy with the result, but obviously they'll want to have improved performances as well as we go into the last few games now of the regular season. But that's it from me. Let me know what you think down in the comments.